Hey friends, imagine this. What if the Bible hid a secret so wild it could rewrite everything you know about the Garden of Eden? I stumbled upon a name, Lilith, whispered in ancient texts, banned from Scripture, and labeled as Adam's first wife before Eve. Was she a rebel demoness, a forgotten goddess, or a love story erased by the church? Stick with me on this personal journey as we uncover the shocking truth about Lilith. Did she really defy God and vanish into legend? Welcome to this wild ride, folks. I'm diving deep into a mystery that's been haunting me for weeks. Lilith, a figure so controversial she's been scrubbed from the official Bible, but lives on in hidden scrolls, forbidden tales, and whispered legends. You might know Adam and Eve as the first couple, the ones who started it all. But what if there was someone before Eve, someone who didn't fit the perfect mold, someone who challenged the very foundations of creation? Lilith's story isn't just a footnote in history. It's a roller coaster of rebellion, seduction, and divine punishment that challenges everything we've been taught about the origins of humanity. In this 20-minute exploration, we'll dig into her origins in ancient myths, tracing her back to the earliest civilizations. We'll uncover why the church decided to erase her from the Bible, leaving only whispers of her existence. We'll explore the wild theories of her demonic legacy. Some say she became a queen of darkness. Others believe she was a goddess in disguise. And finally, we'll look at how her story still resonates today, from pop culture to spiritual movements. Whether you're a believer questioning the gaps in Scripture, a history buff fascinated by ancient conspiracies, or just someone who loves a good mystery, this journey is for you. Let's unravel this forbidden chapter together, step by step, as I share what I've discovered on this incredible quest. Section 1. Lilith's Origins in Ancient Myths. My journey into Lilith started with the oldest texts I could get my hands on, and let me tell you, it blew my mind. The name Lilith first appears in Sumerian mythology around 3000 BCE as a winged demoness, haunting the night, stealing babies, and seducing men in their sleep. She was part of a group of spirits called Lilitu in Mesopotamian lore, feared for their supernatural allure and connection to storms and chaos. These ancient Sumerians believed she roamed the deserts, her wings whispering through the night as she hunted for her prey. But here's where it gets even crazier. Some scholars say this shadowy figure evolved over centuries, eventually finding her way into Jewish folklore, where she took on a whole new identity. The big moment came when I stumbled upon the alphabet of Ben Sira, a medieval text from the 8th to 10th centuries, written in a mix of satire and folklore. This wild book claims Lilith was Adam's first wife, created from the same clay as him, not from his rib like Eve, but as his equal. Picture this: Adam and Lilith walking side by side under the lush trees of the Garden of Eden, the air filled with the scent of blooming flowers and the sound of flowing rivers. They were two beings crafted by God's hands, equal in every way. Or so Lilith thought. The text says she refused to submit to Adam, arguing that since they were both made from the earth, neither should dominate the other. Adam didn't take this well, and a rift grew between them. Lilith, unwilling to compromise her dignity, fled Eden. The story gets even wilder. She uttered God's secret, ineffable name, a powerful act that gave her the ability to escape. But her defiance came at a cost. God cursed her, transforming her into a demoness, doomed to birth hundreds of demon children every day. I couldn't believe what I was reading. an equal creation turning into a cosmic rebellion. The Babylonian Talmud, a collection of Jewish teachings from around 500 CE, even hints at her as a night spirit, Lilith, linked to infertility, nightmares, and chaos. Some historians argue this story might be a mashup of pagan myths with Jewish tradition, a way to explain the unknown by blending old fears with new beliefs. But I'm starting to think there's more to it. What if Lilith's story was too powerful, too revolutionary, to survive in a world that wanted women to be submissive? What if the church, or even earlier Jewish leaders, hid her story to protect Adam's perfect image as the father of humanity? I spent hours poring over these texts, imagining Lilith standing tall in Eden, her voice echoing as she demanded equality. Each page made me wonder, was she the first feminist, cast out for daring to stand up? Or was she something darker, a force of chaos that even God couldn't control? The deeper I dug, the more questions I had, and the more I felt drawn to this mysterious woman from the dawn of time. Section 2. The Church's Erasure and Biblical Silence. So, why isn't Lilith in the Bible? That's the question that kept me up at night, scrolling through ancient manuscripts and historical records on my laptop until the early hours. The official Genesis story gives us Adam and Eve, the classic tale of creation, with no mention of a first wife. But dig a little deeper, and you'll find cracks in the narrative that make you question everything. Genesis 1:27 says, God created man and woman together. Male and female he created them, while Genesis 2:22 tells a different story, with Eve being made from Adam's rib after he's already in the garden. Scholars have debated this for centuries, calling it a contradiction in the text. And I'm starting to wonder if Lilith might be the missing link that explains it all. The Church, especially after the 4th century, seemed absolutely determined to erase her from history. I learned that the alphabet of Ben Sira, though not considered canonical, was widely circulated among Jewish communities in the Middle Ages. Its scandalous tale of Lilith's defiance, of her refusing to bow to Adam and her dramatic escape from Eden, freaked out the early church fathers. They saw her as a dangerous symbol, a woman who dared to challenge the natural order they were trying to establish. During councils like the Council of Hippo in 393 CE and the Council of Carthage in 397 CE, they made deliberate decisions to exclude texts like the alphabet of Ben Sira from the official Bible. They wanted a submissive Eve to fit their narrative of womanhood, someone who would be a helper to Adam, not an equal who questioned authority. Lilith's independence was simply too threatening, a direct challenge to the patriarchal order they were building to unify the Christian faith. Some scholars I read about even suggest that the church might have gone further, destroying scrolls or texts that mentioned her to ensure her story wouldn't spread. I came across whispers that the Dead Sea Scrolls, discovered in the 1940s, might hold clues, fragments that hint at a first Eve or a rebellious female figure who defied God's plan. Could the church have burned or hidden these texts to keep Lilith's secret buried? I'm no expert, but the silence feels intentional, like they rewrote history to erase her power and influence. I also found a fascinating theory that early Jewish leaders might have played a role in her erasure even before Christianity rose to power. Some ancient rabbis, uncomfortable with the idea of a woman asserting equality, might have downplayed her story, relegating her to folklore and demonology rather than scripture. By the time the church took over, they simply finished the job, ensuring Lilith would be nothing more than a ghost in the margins of history, What do you think? Did they silence Lilith to control the story of creation, to keep women in their place? Or was her defiance just too much for their fragile theology to handle? I'm still grappling with these questions, and I'd love to hear your thoughts as we dive deeper. Section 3. Lilith's Legacy, Demoness or Goddess. Lilith's story didn't die with her erasure from Scripture. It morphed into something truly epic, and I couldn't stop digging into the layers of her legend. After her banishment from Eden, Jewish mysticism, particularly the Kabbalah, transformed her into a queen of demons, a dark ruler of the night who commanded legions of demon spawn. The Zohar, a foundational Kabbalistic text from the 13th century, paints her as a seductress who lures men in their dreams, whispering temptations that lead them astray. She's blamed for everything from infertility to infant deaths to nightmares, a shadowy figure who strikes fear into the hearts of the faithful. In medieval Jewish communities, protective amulets were even inscribed with prayers to ward off Lilith, especially during childbirth, when she was believed to be most dangerous. But here's the twist that really grabbed my attention. Some scholars I read about argue that Lilith wasn't always a demoness. They believe she might have originally been a goddess, a powerful deity from Mesopotamian worship who was demoted to a villain by the rise of monotheism. In ancient Sumer, she was tied to Inanna, the goddess of love, war, and fertility, a figure of immense power and complexity. Could Lilith's demonic reputation be a smear campaign, a way to strip her of her divine status and make her a cautionary tale? I started imagining her not as a monster, but as a goddess of independence, a symbol of feminine strength that the ancient world couldn't handle. I also discovered that in some Gnostic texts, early Christian writings that were suppressed by the Church, Lilith appears as a symbol of wisdom and divine knowledge, a figure who challenges patriarchal control. Imagine that. Lilith as a feminist icon, her power too great to coexist with a male-dominated religious system. Some modern occult groups take this even further, claiming she's still alive, influencing the world through secret rituals in hidden caves or ancient temples. I came across a wild legend from Ethiopia that links Lilith to the Queen of Sheba, suggesting a hidden bloodline that might trace back to the Garden of Eden itself. The Queen of Sheba, known for her wisdom and power, might have carried Lilith's legacy, passing it down through generations in a lineage of strong women. Could this be why Lilith's story feels so alive, even thousands of years later? I'm starting to think the Church exaggerated her evil to scare us, to keep us from seeing her true power, her wisdom, her independence, her refusal to bow to anyone. What if she's more than a demoness? What if she's a lost divine figure, reborn in our collective imagination as a symbol of rebellion and strength? I spent hours thinking about this, picturing Lilith not as a villain, but as a queen, a misunderstood deity whose story was twisted by those who feared her. Her legacy raises so many questions about how we view women in history, and I can't wait to hear what you think about this duality. Section 4. Modern Interpretations and Personal Reflection. Today, Lilith's legacy is absolutely everywhere, and it's got me thinking late into the night about what her story means for us now. Pop culture has embraced her in a big way. Shows like Supernatural and Chilling Adventures of Sabrina portray her as a fierce anti-hero, a woman who owns her power and isn't afraid to defy the rules. Books like The Red Tent by Anita Diamant reimagine her as a misunderstood figure, a woman wronged by history who deserves a second look. Feminists have latched onto her as a symbol of resistance against oppression, celebrating her refusal to submit as a rallying cry for equality. I found countless articles and essays online where women describe Lilith as an inspiration, a reminder to stand tall and demand respect in a world that often tries to silence them. But not everyone sees her this way. Some Christians still view Lilith as a warning against disobedience, a cautionary tale of what happens when you defy God's plan. In some religious circles, her name is whispered with fear, a reminder of the dangers of pride and rebellion. I even stumbled across online forums where people claim to have summoned her spirit during rituals, saying she appeared to them in dreams, revealing hidden truths about creation and the nature of good and evil. These stories sent chills down my spine. Could there be a kernel of truth in them? Or are they just modern myths born from our fascination with the unknown? Historians, on the other hand, argue that Lilith is entirely a myth, a blend of folklore, fear, and cultural anxieties about women's power. They point to her origins in Sumerian demonology and her evolution through Jewish and Christian traditions as evidence that she's a fictional character, created to explain the unexplainable. But the passion around her, the way she resonates with so many people, suggests to me that something real was lost, something that speaks to the human experience on a deep level. Personally, this journey has completely changed how I think about faith, history, and the stories we've been told. I started questioning how much of our beliefs are shaped by what's been hidden or rewritten. Was Lilith erased to protect a male-dominated narrative, to keep women in a subservient role, or was she too powerful to control? I spent days reflecting on this, imagining her standing in Eden, her eyes fierce and unyielding as she demanded equality. Some nights I even dream of her, a radiant figure, surrounded by the golden light of the garden, her voice echoing through time. I lean toward a mix of interpretations. Her story might be a blend of myth and truth, twisted by centuries of power struggles and cultural shifts. Maybe she's not just a demoness or a goddess, but a mirror to our own struggles with authority, freedom, and identity. What about you? Does Lilith's tale make you rethink the story of Eden, or do you see her as a cautionary tale etched in divine justice? Does she inspire you to question the narratives you've been taught, or does she feel like a dangerous figure best left in the shadows? I'd love to hear your take as we wrap up this incredible journey. I feel like I've only scratched the surface of her story, and I'm excited to see where this exploration takes us next. Conclusion. As we wrap up this wild ride, Lilith's story leaves me in awe and honestly a bit unsettled. From a rebellious first wife who dared to demand equality, to a demon queen feared by generations, to a goddess reborn in modern imagination, her journey challenges the neat edges of the Bible and forces us to ask hard questions about faith, power, and history. Was she Adam's lost love, a divine feminine force turned into a villain by a fearful church, or a fabrication meant to scare us into submission? I'm still piecing it together, and I'd love to hear your thoughts. Drop your theories in the comments. Do you think the church hid her on purpose to reshape our understanding of creation? Or do you believe her story was always meant to be a myth, a way to explain the mysteries of the ancient world? Like, subscribe and hit that bell for more forbidden mysteries. We're just getting started on this journey into the unknown. Next time, we'll dive into another hidden chapter of history, uncovering secrets that might change the way you see the world. Keep questioning, keep exploring, because the truth might be wilder than we ever imagined. Until then, Stay curious, friends, and let's keep this conversation going.